Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and I'm recording this shortly after having played a section of the Defiant Honored DLC of the video game NIOH. Now, if you guys know me, if you guys have been around the channel for a while, you guys will know that I love NIOH. I think it's a fantastic game. It's one of the best games that was released in 2017. It really won me over after me not enjoying the beta all that much. I was genuinely surprised when I started playing the actual game itself because it was so much more polished, so much of a better experience overall that I just ended up really enjoying it. Did a full series on it, did a full series on the original DLC, on the first DLC that came out, and I was considering doing obviously a full series on the second DLC as well. We even have a preparation live stream that I did not so long ago. And, you know, it was just like something that it was just going to be part of course. I was like, oh man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great times. We're going to be enjoying some more NIOH and it's going to be good. And as it turns out, it wasn't. And before we get to the reason why, I would like to talk a little bit about the Ringed City DLC in Dark Souls 3, which, as you guys know, was one of the few Dark Souls DLCs that I didn't really like all that much. And I never really talked too much about it because there's a live stream. You guys can watch my first-hand impressions and how I was frustrated in the mechanics specifically that I didn't like and all that stuff. And I've been getting a lot of backlash from that, from the community. And I want to set things, you know, I want to set things straight, both with the Ringed City DLC as well as this Defiant Honor DLC, about a very specific mechanic that maybe it's just me. I would actually like to hear from you guys as well in the comment section. Like, look, this is a way for us to communicate and to talk about these things and to make sure that you guys understand my point of view and that I understand your point of view. You know, I don't like getting to a point with my community where there's a big section of my community that feels that I kind of like that I have a wrong opinion about something and that I was just frustrated or something like that. And I really want to make sure that you guys understand, because every now and then I still get asked about the Ringed City and all of these other things. So I would really like to put this down and tell you guys my personal view on it. So we're going to be starting things with the Ringed City DLC. So what was it about the Ringed City DLC that I didn't care for? And it was a very simple mechanic, and it was repeated twice throughout the game. And that mechanic was the Angels mechanic. I've talked about it at length, and several people have told me it's not that hard, and it's not that problematic. You were just like frustrated, and that's what really pissed you off. And it's like, I just want to make sure that you guys understand that I'm not saying that it is a hard mechanic or that it is a super frustrating mechanic or whatever. What I'm going to say specifically is that that mechanic that they put with both the Angels and then later down the line the spawning ethereal archers, that it's pretty much the exact same mechanic with a different twist to it. But anyone that is, for those of you that maybe haven't played the Ringed City DLC, let me explain what happens. So there's these Angels that spawn, and they will shoot beams of light at you, almost like, imagine a Gundam missile launcher. That's pretty much kind of the same way. It's like a barrage of beams of light that shoot right at you, and you're forced to take cover in between that specific ghost shooting. And then later on down the line, you can get rid of this by finding an enemy which is hiding. It's a passive enemy. It's like the physical manifestation of this angelic ghost that is shooting stuff down at you. Once you find the physical manifestation, you can kill it. The ghost is gone, and it's not a problem anymore. I actually don't remember if they respawn or not. I think they don't respawn. I'm pretty sure they don't respawn. Either way, you can find a physical manifestation, kill it, no more ghost, done. Then there's another mechanic further ahead where there's this dude, I think he's called an adjudicator or something, where he does an incantation and he summons like 20 or 30 ethereal archers that all shoot arrows directly at you at the same time. As you can see, these are two very similar mechanics. To me, they might as well be the exact same mechanic. It's just a different kind of twist on it, so to speak. And these were two mechanics that really, really bothered me and really hampered my enjoyment of the game. And why did these mechanics specifically bother me? Because to me, when I'm playing a Dark Souls or a Souls-like video game, two things that I really enjoy doing and immersing myself in are exploration, making sure that I try and find every nook and cranny, everything there is to find in the game. I like taking my time with it. A lot of the times that is the reason why my playthroughs, my videos, my live streams, they're so long, because I spend a lot of time really combing through a level. And sometimes I still miss a lot of stuff, for sure, but I like taking my time with things. I like taking my time with combat, analyzing my enemies' patterns, finding out the best way of countering those patterns, and employing that tactic after figuring that stuff out. And mechanics like the ones I just described of the ghost, the angelic ghost that shoots beams of light at you, and the archers. Basically what they force you to do is run from cover to cover. Do not explore. Run from cover to cover. And until you can figure out where to find the thing that disables this trap, which in the case of Dark Souls 3, those things were very, very well hidden. And what it ended up happening was me running through the levels, and then by the time I got to the point where I killed the thing and I disabled the trap and all this other stuff, I would then have to go back about doing exploring. So it's kind of like forcing me to rush my experience to get to a specific thing and then go back so that I can actually enjoy the gameplay. So it's like, if you have to do combat while you're getting shot at, that's a pain in the ass, obviously. Sometimes there are specific mechanics about that and whatnot. But it's just, in this specific case, I felt that it was just too much. It was to the point where the game was no longer fun. And here's where the frustration argument comes in. Because a lot of people will say, okay, you were frustrated because you died a couple of times to that mechanic, and that it frustrated you and basically made the rest of the DLC not be as fun. But it's like, I went back to the game after, like, days after. I went back because I was working on another character and I wanted to go through the DLC. This was off stream. And I went back to the game and I got to that exact same mechanic. I even knew where I had to go to deal with the ghosts and do all this stuff. I knew exactly what I had to do, when I had to do it, when to duck, when to dodge, when to take cover. And I still got there and I was like, I don't want to do this again because it's not fun. And see, that becomes a problem. Because, like, when you have a mechanic that is challenging, but then you overcome it, and then you're like, okay, so I know how to deal with this now. This is cool. I can totally do it. And you do it. You go through it. You do those mechanics. You solve the puzzles, whatever it is. You do the combat thing, and you just have fun with it, and you keep going. But when you get to a mechanic that you just get there, and you're like, this... In Dark Souls, it has kind of like been the poison levels. The poison levels is something most people don't appreciate. But most people get through it because the poison levels are not insurmountable. They're not, they're not that much fun, but they're not a huge problem either. But when I got to that same area with the angels, I was just like, nope, can't do it. Can't do it because I don't feel like doing it. It's just not fun. And I eventually... I ended up only ever doing the Ringed City DLC once because of that. I haven't gone back to the Ringed DLC since. I've completely burned out on that specific piece of DLC. And I think it's going to take me a long time to ever go back there. Because, again, like I said, it is quite simply not fun. And that is the reason I'm talking about these mechanics in the Ringed City, was to kind of bring my point of view to you. And like I said, I would like to hear opinions from the people who say that they really enjoyed that DLC. I would like to hear from you. What specifically did you enjoy? Because, like, I could talk about a couple of more things in that DLC. Sure, there are the cool weapons and all this other stuff. That's fine. But a couple of more things in that DLC. The first boss that you fight, where it's like the dual boss type thing, I didn't think that was that bad. I didn't think it was that great either. The other boss that you fight, which is like some kind of network fight where you summon players. I don't even know. I only done that boss once, and someone got summoned. Either they were lagging, they were AFK. I don't know. I killed him in like 2 seconds. The boss was over. I was like, I didn't even understand what the fuck was going on. And then there's the secret boss, Madir, which a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's the biggest dragon ever. And thinking back to that fight, the only thing that really came back to my mind was, this is like one of the worst designed bosses I've ever seen. And you guys are like, what? What are you talking about? And it's like, well, for starters, I had to swap weapons specifically for the purpose of doing this boss, because I believe that the weapon I was using at the time could actually not hit the boss in the required locations that I needed to hit the boss because the boss is just so fucking big. So I just didn't have a proper move set in the weapon that I was using to fight the boss. So I had to go and get myself a different weapon specifically for the purpose of fighting a boss, which to me is like, I get getting to a point where it's like, sure, this weapon is better for this boss. I get that. But like, if you're going to tell me this weapon is completely useless for this boss, unless it's some kind of a joke weapon or something. I don't even remember which weapon I was using at the time. But I remember that because of the fact that the weapon I was using had more of a horizontal swing to it, it would never hit the boss in the head. And this is a boss fight that essentially consists of you constantly running. Like you are literally running. The whole boss fight is you running towards the boss. And I'm listening to people tell me about how much they love this DLC. And I'm just like, I can't see it. Because there's the annoying mechanics at the start. Then there's that dumb boss that I killed in 2 seconds that I don't even know what the fuck happened. And then there's this dragon boss that is like... It's like half an hour of me running after the dragon, and if you make one mistake in that fight, it's just like reset, and now you have another half an hour of you running after a dragon, because the arena is just so big, and the dragon's constantly running away from you. And I had to use a weapon that I didn't feel like using, and there were all these things, right? But anyway, we got through it. And the final fight, the Gale fight, that was actually cool. I really like that fight. That fight is fun. That fight is awesome. That's like the best thing about that DLC is the final boss fight in that DLC. That was the best thing. Now, I'm not much of a lore guy. Usually whenever I go for lore, I check out Vadi Video or ENB or whoever happens to be working on lore at the time, because you guys know me. I'm not big on lore. And then that was it, right? So now we've been talking about the Ringed City because I wanted to bring up the Ringed City, and I wanted you guys to understand my personal stance on why I think it's one of the worst Dark Souls DLCs. I want to make sure you guys understand why and where I'm coming from, okay? And again, I'm looking to hear from you. I'm looking to hear your feedback. But now I want to get into the Defiant Honor DLC, right? So, very important thing about Nioh that I would like to bring up is the fact that if you guys followed the series, if you guys watched the series, you will notice that by the time I got to the last levels of Nioh, that I was under-leveled for what the recommended level for those missions was. And by under-leveled, I'm talking about like 20, 30 levels below what the level of the mission they indicate in. And it was never a problem. So like we would go into these missions, the thing would say like, you need level 140 or level 100 something. And I would be 20, 30, sometimes 40 levels below that level. Never been a problem. Because you would still go in, kill the enemies just fine. Not a problem. Same thing. First DLC comes out, same thing happens. Like I think the requirement for a lot of the levels on the first DLC was like 175. By the time I was done with the original DLC, I was like 135, 136, somewhere along those lines. So we were like 40 levels below the recommended level. Again, no problem whatsoever. Not an issue at all. Second DLC comes up. I'm like, okay, it says here, first level 100, level 185. Shouldn't be a problem. I'm level 141 right now. Should not be a problem because it's never been a problem up until this point. Then I begin the DLC. I'm like testing out the new weapon, the tonfas. I do a build, all of that stuff. And as soon as I, go out into the level and get ready to, actually go through the level, I get one shot by a mechanic. And you guys are wondering, well, what mechanic was that? It was a mechanic where there's the sound of a gong, and there is a hail of arrows that flies straight to you, and you die. There was no warning, no indication of that mechanic coming. It was just straight up. I moved outside, and I instantly died. And I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty cheap. So then I realized that that mechanic was the exact same mechanic we had in the Ringed City DLC, but obviously applied in context to Nioh. So instead of having some kind of demonic, angelic, ghostly figure shooting beams of light at me, I had huge amount of archers shooting arrows at me that would pretty much kill me one shot every time. Like, I get caught out of cover one time, dead instantly. So it's a one-shot kill mechanic. I mean, technically it's not one shot because the arrows will hit me like 3-4 times before I actually die, but they hit you so fast that you can't move, you can't dodge, you can't block, you can't do anything, you just die. So to me, that's a one-shot mechanic. And again, this might be because maybe I'm under-leveled, I don't know, but according to the game's own systems, according to the basically the information that I brought from previous experience, that should not be the case. So that mechanic is there. That is just like instant, like me just having flashbacks of the Ringed City DLC and me just like instantly turned off. But I'm like, okay, let's deal with this. Let's deal with this mechanic, figure it out. And the way you deal with it this time is you find these cannons, you shoot a cannon blast against the wall, and the arrows stop coming down. So I start going through it, figuring out how to deal with it and all this other stuff. But as we do this, I notice that every single enemy in the game is currently 1 or 2 shotting me. Just like straight up. 2 hits, dead. Sometimes it would be 3, very rarely. Other times it would be 1. Like if it was a big weapon, like an axe enemy, hit me once, boom, dead. Odashi enemy, hit me once, boom, dead. So we had a lot of deaths. And it got to the point where I was like, this is just not fun. And then I started running through the level. Because like I just want to get to a point where I can turn off these arrows so that I can enjoy one of the things that I really like about Nioh, which is the combat. I really love the combat in Nioh, and I wanted to try out the new weapons, the tonfas. I might have called them the tonkas earlier in this video. I meant to say the tonfas. And I wanted to get to a point where I could enjoy combat, and I never got there. I never got to a point in this DLC. In the first level of this DLC, the very first thing as you open the game, the very first thing you play, there was not one single instance where I got to actually enjoy the combat. And to me, that was a bit of a problem. I was basically just running around trying to figure out how the fuck to turn off these arrows. And when I reached the conclusion there was one set of arrows that I couldn't figure out exactly what I had to do because either there weren't enough cover spots or I went to a cover spot, that cover spot would explode, and I tried looking for other cover spots that would allow me to get to a cannon to then shoot another ammunition to turn off those arrows. Basically, I couldn't figure it out because I was just rushing through the level, and sure, at that point I was frustrated and I was just like, whatever. So I ran through the level, got to the boss, and then the boss is just like constantly spamming all kinds of crazy attacks on me that I was just like, this is insane. The amount of damage this boss is dealing versus the amount of damage I'm dealing. It just feels like I'm under-leveled, which was when I started thinking like maybe I am under-leveled. But it's weird because if we take into context the way that I've passed the rest of the game, I never felt as under-leveled as I felt now, and the level difference has always been pretty much the same, and it's never been a problem. So I don't understand where this dissonance is coming from. But anyway, the way that I handled that boss, and just because I was in rage mode Rurikhan, and I was like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker if it's the last thing I do before I'm done with this DLC. And so what I ended up doing is my build has a very specific way in which I become very powerful, which is I charge up the living weapon, and then I have spells that allow me to gain Amrita through every blow. I have another spell that gives me an Amrita multiplier. Therefore, once I get to the living weapon stage, pretty much I can keep living weapon, not indefinitely, but I can keep living weapon up a seriously long time. So I got to that point and I beat the shit out of the boss with just straight up living weapon, which, felt in a way almost a little bit cheesy because pretty much I skipped all of the mechanics of that fight. I just brutalized that boss with living weapon. And when I was done, I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel like I beat the level because I barely got to explore the level because of that stupid arrow mechanic, which follows in line with the angel mechanic and the spectral archers mechanic in the Ringed City DLC. And I just got to the end of that level, and I was wondering, like, I had zero fun. I mean, I guess I can't say that. I guess I had a little bit of fun when I was discovering the very rare instances where I was allowed to do combat properly and actually fight enemies one-on-one, two-on-one, to actually experiment with the tonfas and stuff. That was fun. I think the tonfas is a really fun weapon, like, because it's got these great combos. It's got these, you know, these moves that you can do whenever you recover your key. It goes back and then it goes into a different combo. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun weapon, but ultimately I didn't get to use it at all because the boss barely gave me a chance to hit him once. And the rest of the level barely gave me a chance to actually engage in combat. And that's when I realized it's like I had almost no fun, and therefore I have zero intention of progressing with this DLC because... And I had people in chat telling me I should take a break and all this stuff, but it's like, ultimately, I don't know. There was just something about... There's just something about that mechanic when... a developer is forcing me to rush through a section of a level. Like, I get it if there's like a specific cataclysmic event happening or whatever. I understand. But it's like, if you're forcing me to rush through a level and then you're hiding things in the places that I'm being forced to rush through, is as someone who is very much a completionist and likes to pick up every single item, those two things put together, and someone who really enjoys engaging in combat and enemies, and I hate skipping enemies, which is the reason why I don't do speed runs. I don't do any of that stuff because a lot of the things that involve doing speed runs also involve you skipping through combat and skipping foes and just skipping as much of the game as you can, pretty much, in order to get to the things that you actually need to do in order to finish the game. And that's never been my kind of gameplay. A lot of people always ask me, why don't you do Soul Level 1? Why don't you do speed runs? And there's your answer right there, because I actually like engaging in combat. I like having fun with it. I like fighting things. I like overcoming those challenges. And when they put these very specific mechanics in, just like kind of forcing you to run along, it was like kind of the same thing in the Frigid Outskirts. If we look at the mechanic in the Frigid Outskirts, it's the exact same thing. It's like that is a mechanic that is made to prevent you from properly exploring an area, because I think you can kill the fucking unicorns like 60-something times. I don't know. But you can basically kill them some 60 or more times before they stop respawning. I don't even remember how that mechanic worked because I just erased that place from my memory. But like what I ended up doing to get through that level is, again, rushing through. And whenever something forces me to rush through a level, it just ticks something in me that is just visceral. It's a visceral reaction that I'm just like, fuck this. I hate rushing through things. I want experience things. I want to have fun with things. I don't want to be rushed. And I definitely don't appreciate the pressure of having constant shit spawning on top of me nonstop in a game type where it's very important for you to be able to analyze your opponents, analyze their patterns, and deconstruct them and form your own strategies as to how to deal with them. And running is never a strategy that I personally like. Running away from confrontation. In my opinion, it's just a bad mechanic all around. And that was the problem in the Frigid Outskirts, and that was also the problem in the run back to Alon, where even fucking running there was a pain in the ass. You had like fucking hundreds of enemies in between your spawn point and the actual boss room, and killing them every time would make you take like, I don't know, 15 minutes in between actual boss attempts. And if you actually ran through, the mobs have specific mechanics where they will charge you in ways that make it almost, at least it used to be, almost impossible for you to run through properly unless you're running through friggin' naked with stamina boosts and whatever the fuck. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. And again, this is why I really want to get you guys' opinion on it in the live stream where I did. I'm not sure if, because this is like my third take for recording this video. I'm not sure if I've mentioned, I have that live stream unlisted because I didn't like how the live stream went. But if you guys want to watch it, there is a link in the description of this video where you guys can watch the specific live stream of the Defiant Honor DLC if you're curious about it and if you want to take a better look at it. But again, in that live stream, every single person that was there wasn't a single person who thought that specific level in the Defiant Honor was a good level. Everyone said it was a bad level. And now I'm curious, is it me? Is it actually just me that there's this very specific mechanic that triggers me, and that, you know, you guys actually enjoy that mechanic? You actually enjoy being rushed through a level instead of exploring and taking your time doing combat? Is that something that you enjoy? Am I like alone in this opinion? Am I the only one? I don't know, but to be completely honest, when I was done with that first level of the DLC, I was like, I would not recommend this to anyone, and that's like, and it's very hard for me to come to that conclusion, because this is a game that I love. I love Neo. I think it's a fantastic fucking game, the base game. And having played usually DLCs enhance your experience of a video game, like the first DLC did. It enhanced my experience. It gave me a new weapon, did all these things. This one also gives you a new weapon, does some things, but I felt like my experience was greatly diminished from having played even just that one level. It just completely turned me off to the whole thing. And now I have zero intentions of ever touching any more DLC for Neo again. And maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's just, that's how hard it put me off. I think it would have been the same thing for Dark Souls 3. Like, if they were to tell me, oh, we're coming up with another DLC, I'd be like, oh man, I'm not sure if I want to engage with your next DLC, considering what I had to do in the Ringed City. And again, now we come full circle, where I just really want to know your opinions, and I really want to hear your arguments, particularly from the people who told me that I was wrong in disliking the DLC. I want to know why you liked the Ringed City DLC so much, and if you're enjoying the Defiant Honor DLC for Neo, I want to know why. Like, I understand if it's the Tonfas. The Tonfas are awesome. Great weapon, really fun. But is that it? Is that the only thing you like? Like, I don't know. I'd like to hear from you guys. And again, I would also like you guys to get my position on that specific topic. Thank you guys very much for watching. This was a bit of a ranty video. And again, I don't want to make this a habit of making rants, because I'm more about being positive about video games and not being as negative, because there's already like 1,000 other YouTubers that enjoy ripping new assholes in games, and that has never really been my approach to video games. So the main reason I wanted to tackle this is, again, because I kind of feel like there's a bit of a butting of heads between me and some of you, and I wanted to basically clear the air with that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.